Good evening, you're watching Sports Tonight Live, and this is The Punter with myself, Trevor Harris, and Gordon Watson, Flash, as he's known. How are you, Gordon?
Cheers, Trev. Yeah, all good. Yeah, good weekend.
Good punting or not?
Yeah, very good punting weekend. I mean, we had a clean sweep of the 5 nations, or 6 nations as it is, with Italy and Wales and England all beating their handicaps, which was good.
Nice little treble.
Yeah, very nice. We got 4 out of 5 for Flash's 5 on Saturday on the football, and we picked Jenson to win as well. So very good start.
We'll look at a lot of that later, but you know, to keep it here, if you weren't with us last week, you missed a load of winners. That's the first thing. We're going to start off talking football, Flash, and the Premier League title race. Virtually all season, you've been a lone voice in the wilderness saying United are going to win it, not City, as so many punters have predicted. And the way the odds are at the moment, you must be feeling almost vindicated.
Oh, yeah, definitely. It was just one of them that I found it difficult that a team had not won anything was going to basically carry the torch all season. Man United are course and distance winners 19 times. They know how to get it done. They are, without doubt, the form horse after Christmas any year. Even when they don't even win it, they're always the best side from Christmas to the end of the season. And I just felt that they were basically up against it with injuries and things like that. So once they came back, they was always going to be stronger towards the end.
And the odds have really flip-flopped, haven't they, the last couple of weeks, since Manchester City lost at Swansea. And, of course, United winning, 5-0 at the weekend over a pretty poor Wolves team. And that's helped the goal difference as well. So the odds now change. They're very short now, United, 9-20.
Yeah, and the big thing is, Boxing Day, Man United was 7-2. And Man City were like 1-2, 4-9. And that's when everyone said that it's Man City's to lose now, which it wasn't. It was basically still, for me, it was Man United, and I couldn't believe 7-2.
Yeah, of course, those odds take into account the City have got a tough game coming up in the week against Chelsea. We'll speak about that in detail. The league table, City 4 points adrift now. They have got the game in hand, but the pressure's all on them, and they haven't been there before, and United have. Yeah,
exactly, and it's all about the pressure because we obviously speak to a lot of Italian journalists, and they're always worried about when it gets to the squeaky bum time with Mancini. He sort of closes up shop, and they're not as elaborate on the pitch as they normally would be, and so you know it's going to get tighter and tighter down the stretch, and that was another reason why I felt really confident about Man United.
To be fair, he did win a couple of Scudettos at Inter, and that's a tough league to win.
Yeah, but it all depends. I mean, again, I look at the Inter, and it's normally one side per year. They normally either do the double because they're so dominant. It's like Milan this year, we don't see them the next year. And I just don't see that they can carry 2 or 3 injuries to key personnel like Manchester United can do and do. I mean, you lose company, you lose Yaya, and I haven't lost heart, but they lose one of the strikers. And obviously losing Tevez is now going to come back and bite them.
Well, absolutely. I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? Because last year, United at this time were just a couple of points clear, 2 or 3 points clear of Arsenal. We can show you that league table, actually. And, of course, Arsenal self-destructed completely, and United went on to win the league at a canter. I'm not sure that Man City will self-destruct like the Gunners did, but certainly the pressure's on them, and on paper at least, they've got the harder run in as well.
Oh, they have. I mean, first of all, you've got Chelsea, who all of a sudden have got a newfound vigour that they actually think, well, if we go and beat Man City, then we're closing in on both Tottenham and Arsenal.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, no one's given them a shout this year, and I certainly didn't. Even from the start of the season, I didn't think it was going to be their year. And now they think that they can scrape into the Champions League as well.
The only thing that might worry you, and it would worry me if I was a Chelsea fan, is that because they're now involved, still in the Champions League after that great performance against Napoli, still in the FA Cup, semi-final to look forward to. They're fighting on 3 fronts. That does stretch the squad. Even with Torres, someone told me today he's back in form. He scored twice against Leicester. Hadn't scored for, 24 hours or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Got to help his confidence. But I think they're still stretched, Chelsea.
Yeah, I mean, well, the other thing I'd go against that is they've not played all season. They'll all be fresh because they haven't lifted a leg all year. And that's the scandalous thing that's happened to AVB. And you watch him against Leicester, and to be fair to Leicester, they come and had a go. They honestly thought that they were there for the taking. And all of a sudden you saw the old Chelsea. You went from Peter Cech getting the ball to Chelsea having a shot on the opposing goal in 3 or 4 seconds. They haven't been like that all year. They've been so methodical, up, back, sideways. But for some reason, they were direct and they were very good.
All right, let's have a look now at the top London club. And this is a really fascinating market because Arsenal and Spurs vying for favouritism. Chelsea are a big price. I get the feeling, Flash, that you might think Chelsea are worth a punt. They're 11-2.
Yeah, I mean, the 11-2 is obviously above and beyond value, to be fair, because it is a 3-horse race. But for me, I would have to go with Arsenal.
Momentum, is that?
Yeah, momentum, belief. They've got players that are obviously coming. They've had 15 injuries to key personnel all year.
Yeah.
They're telling me Jack Wilshere might be back in a good few weeks. So I would still say Arsenal are probably the favourites above Tottenham, even though Tottenham are the best, worst price at even money. But you couldn't put anyone off Chelsea.
No,
Certainly not.
That shows you how close it is. Arsenal are a point clear of Spurs. Spurs are a point clear of Arsenal, I should say, and then Chelsea 3 behind. Of course, there might be some movement coming up at the weekend because after going to Man City, Chelsea have to play Tottenham at home. Now, from Arsenal's point of view, probably not a bad result, whichever way that goes.
No, but Arsenal have got to entertain Man City in a few weeks as well.
They do.
So again, that's another thing for Man City. They've got to play two sides that you'd think, oh, they ain't got a lot to play for. But all of a sudden, the gun will be at their head and they've got to produce. So I would not want to go to Arsenal with anybody's team when Arsenal need to produce.
That's right. Manchester City have to go to Arsenal, and so too to Chelsea. And that's in a few weeks. And the other interesting, it's not really a stat, it's important. This is the kind of stuff punters need to take on board. Once Spurs have played at Chelsea at the weekend, Flash, none of their remaining games are against what you'd call the big sides. I think the highest placed team they're due to face are Sunderland. So in terms of the fixture list, it would probably favour Spurs. In terms of momentum, it favours Arsenal, which gives punters a bit of a dilemma.
Yeah, it does, and it probably flicks back to saying that Chelsea at 11-2 are a real good value, because if they go to Man City and win, which they could well do, I mean, they go there and it's like you got 1 point separating the three. All right, they've got an extra game, but they've got the points on the board. So it's going to go right down to the wire, this.
If Chelsea do win at City, do you think the title's done and dusted?
I think the title's done and dusted anyway.
Now?
I do, yeah. I think that Man United could go to the Etihad, and if they get a win, I think they could win it at the Etihad with 2 games to go.
So what you're saying is 9-20, take it.
Well, yeah, I've been saying take 7-2, 5-2, 9-4, 2-1, all the way down. So 9-20, you should be on already, and if you're not, leave it.
Interesting, interesting. So you've been with City for a while. Top London club-wise, you
Arsenal.
think Chelsea's the value? You think Arsenal and Chelsea the value?
Yeah, definitely.
It's just as intriguing at the bottom of the table as it is at the top. You were a lone voice again,
yes,
and look to be being proved right that Blackburn are going to get out of trouble. They're not out of trouble yet, but they're certainly above the drop zone.
They're too strong. They're too strong compared to the other boys.
Wigan, virtually everyone seems to be tipping them to go down, and QPR are having a nightmare, aren't they?
They are. I mean, that's the only one really. I mean, I went for Wigan, Bolton, QPR. QPR were under Neil Warnock stewardship then, and that's why I went for them. Mark Hughes came in. I did get sucked in for a few weeks thinking, that's it now, because they've got better players, they've got good firepower, but they've got no discipline. I liken it to, I've got a lovely new jigsaw, but none of my pieces are fitting. For some reason, I can't get them right. But I do think that Mark Hughes will get it turned around, and I do believe that it'll probably be Wigan, Bolton, and definitely Wolves.
Well, Wolves' goal difference, we saw it there, it's horrific. The 5 goals they conceded at the weekend certainly didn't help, and it is so tight, 3 teams on the same points. Goal difference may well play a part.
Yeah, it may well do, but you can't see where Wolves' next point's coming from, and this is, we said this from day one, as soon as Mick McCarthy got the bullet. We couldn't work it out because the one person that they were basically in the same position last year as they were this year, and the one person that got them out because of the way they play was Mick McCarthy. As soon as you take that away, the drive, the desire, everything that you would say you don't like playing against Wolves for has been taken away. Now they are just Billy average, and I think that the board will get what they deserve for making a really bad decision.
Yeah, well, Billy Average might be being kind. Let's have this is quite interesting. We're going to have a look at the league table at the bottom as it was last season, because you might remember the relegation race was just as tense, just as exciting, went down to the last day of the season. And the teams we've highlighted there in yellow, Blackpool, Birmingham and West Ham, they were the teams that ended up getting relegated. Blackpool, of course, who made a storming start to life in the Premier League, folded dramatically in the last few months of the season. Birmingham I had a piece of at 8, which was quite nice, obviously not if you're a blue nose. So it is possible, and Wolves and Wigan survived, obviously, so it is possible for teams below the drop line now to get out of trouble, but their games are running out. Yeah,
and the big one is, I mean, out of all the bottom 5, you'd say that Queen's Park Rangers probably got the best personnel. You got Wigan. For me, Wigan are not, they don't benefit or bring anything to the table for Premiership games week in, week out. Yeah. They have half-empty stadium at home, they're dull, and they're not good enough, basically. Wolves, for me, they're gone. So now you're looking QPR and Bolton. Now, everything that's happened to Bolton, I don't know if that's going to be the ruining of them or if it's going to make them, if it's going to bring them closer. But, I mean, Wigan and Bolton, I would say we're going to go with Wolves.
Okay, but by the way, if you haven't heard the news today, Fabrice Muamba is talking apparently in French and English and has recognised a couple of people, so fingers are firmly crossed for his recovery. Let's have a look at the relegation odds then for the Premier League, because obviously we've got quite a few odds on. Wolves 1 to 5. These are Unibet odds, of course. 1 to 5 Wigan as well. 2 to 5 QPR. So we reckon they got a better chance than Wigan and Wolves, but not much. And then Bolton are on the cusp, a bit better than even money if you fancy them to go down. Blackburn we reckon will stay up. They're 2 to 1, and the rest are big prices. Villa, Norwich, Fulham, you'd say they're all safe. Yeah,
definitely. And the big thing is you've got Queen's Park Rangers at 2 to 5. They've got none of the bottom boys to play. So you're going to say they're up against hard games. That might be exactly what they need, to be fair. Now, Bolton at 5 to 4, they are the value to go. You think of the others, Wolves and Wigan, we've already wrote their obituaries. Now, as well, Bolton at 5 to 4, then I wouldn't put anybody off taking them to be the ones that go.
We did say that about Wigan last season when they were in a perilous position. They got out of it.
Yeah, but they're not showing it. Roddy Ager's not kicking a ball.
No.
I mean, he's the one that normally pops up when they win 1-0 somewhere or 2-1. But they're just not doing it. They're just not going and firing through. They're having chances, but they're not ruthless enough in the final third, and they don't keep clean sheets.
Yeah, no, and they had a great chance to get 3 points at the weekend and didn't take it.
And the week before away at Norwich, they bossed the game for 80 minutes, and they had 2 or 3 golden opportunities that teams in the mid-table or in the top 6, they finish them off. They're there for a reason. They don't score enough goals, and they don't keep clean sheets.
All right, Flash, thanks very much indeed. Well, that's how it looks on the domestic scene. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll be having a look at all things European and the Championship as well. See you in a moment. Welcome back to the Punter, trying to find you a little bit of extra value in the various football markets. Europe in a moment, but let's just touch on the Championship, Gordon. We said the Premier League title race is close. Same applies in the Championship. Your old club right up there, Southampton. We got West Ham and Reading coming on a storming run.
Yeah, we have. I mean, Reading have had 9 wins out of their last 10, and they're unbeaten in them 10 games because they only drew at home, away at Donny.
Yeah.
The thing is, everyone looks here and thinks they're Southampton. They've been up there all season. Now, with my experience, I've been promoted out of this league twice, been beaten in the playoffs once, and no team ever really goes from start to finish at the top. I think we've had Reading once who won it on a record amount of points. Now, the big thing that a lot of people don't realise is that Reading have got to play Southampton away and they've got to play West Ham. Now, if Reading beat Southampton and West Ham beat Reading, then Southampton are third, and then all of a sudden it flip-flops.
Yeah,
so for me, and I do believe that the one team out of them 3 who doesn't make it won't go up. They will not win the playoffs.
There is something about playoffs where the third team just doesn't do it.
No, yeah, I mean, I think last year really it was a real exception to the rule with Swansea making it through.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you've got Southampton's got 3 big away games. They've got Hull tomorrow night. Hull don't let goals in. To be fair, they don't score, where Southampton do score, so they may have the edge there. Saints have also got to go to Blackpool away, who are on a charge, and they've got to go to Middlesbrough away. So they're 3 games that you could easily take no points out of.
Yeah.
And at this stage of the season, even though they may win their home games, because they have got the likes of Doncaster, they have got the likes of Coventry on the last day of the season, so you would say Southampton's home form should carry them through, but they cannot afford to get nothing at them 3 big away games.
OK, well, if you fancy a punt on who's going to win the Championship, let's have a look at the odds as they stand. It's pretty much a 3-horse race. I think we're all agreed on it. Even money, Southampton, Reading are 11 to 5, West Ham 11 to 4. It's interesting, isn't it, that bookies have made Reading now second favourites ahead of West Ham United. Although, on the face of it, the 1-1 draw they got at Elland Road at the weekend, not a bad result. It's a difficult place to go there, and they got a late equaliser too.
Yeah, it was. I think that sometimes, I mean, when we got promoted with Bradford, we actually went somewhere and we got a last-minute equaliser, and that was actually the point that got us into runners-up spot. And it's really weird how things like that happen. Southampton played Leeds 2 weeks ago at Elland Road and got battered, absolutely battered in every single form apart from the scoreline. Saints won 1-0.
Yeah.
So they are really going well, Leeds, and Saints getting that 1-0, they thought the same thing. But it's all going to come down to Reading get on against West Ham, Reading get on against Southampton, because, I mean, looking at them odds, West Ham 11 to 4. they still make plenty of appeal.
Well, the other thing about Southampton is, you know what Arsenal fans say about wrapping Robin van Persie in cotton wool. Same applies to Ricky Lambert. I mean,
Yeah,
anything happens to him, they're in trouble.
They are, because all of a sudden you've got no physical strength up the front. There are other boys up the front, the likes of Billy Sharp, Tandon RELEGATION, the Japanese boy who's got Premiership movement, but he's just a bit too hectic at the moment. Old David Connolly. So if you do lose Ricky Lambert for anything, you lose a lot out of the team other than his goals. And you don't wish that. No Saints fan is wishing that. Because he has been frighteningly good.
Superb. Of course, he got a hat-trick at the weekend. Not his first this season either. Fourth hat-trick, yeah. Let's have a look at the promotion odds then. These are Unibet odds, as we mentioned earlier. A few short prices, of course, because they reckon Southampton, Reading, West Ham, well, 2 of the 3 have got to go up, you would imagine. And then after that, it gets interesting because you're kind of betting on who you might fancy to go through the playoffs. And also, Flash, that there's usually one team that finds a way to make it into the playoffs who may not be in the top 6 now, and you will get a price if you can correctly spot them.
The bottom one.
Leicester City?
Without a doubt. Okay. Without a doubt. I mean, again, since Nigel's been there, he's had to take over and mop up a lot of rubbish that Sven had left. The boys weren't fit. The boys weren't organised. And I think they did a really good account of themselves yesterday at Chelsea by going and having a go. They got a lot of confidence out of that. They were only 5 points away from the playoffs at the moment. I think they've got to go to quite a few of them teams. The destiny's in their own hands. And I would say that 11-1 for them to be promoted. If they get in the playoffs, they will be favourites. So again, you're 11-1, you'll be able to trade out because there'll be odds on if they get in the playoffs.
It's fascinating, isn't it, that? Why do you say they will be favourites in the playoffs?
Because they're so strong. I mean, they've got basically a Premiership strike force in Beckford and Nugent on their day. And that's been a big problem that earlier on in the year.
Well, it has been the inconsistency this season, hasn't it? And the change of managers hasn't helped, obviously.
No, I mean, the change of managers has helped because otherwise they wouldn't even be anywhere near they are now because they were allowed to do exactly what they wanted to do all the time. And that's why. And also didn't know the best team. Nigel gets them down and they all know what they're doing and they're getting fitter and they're getting stronger. So for me, Leicester City at 11-1 would be big value.
Okay. Now, there aren't any championship teams left in the FA Cup, of course, after the weekend. We can have a little look at how we stand. Of course, we still don't know what the situation is with Bolton Wanderers. There were some reports today that they may decide to withdraw from the competition. Whatever decision the club comes to, I'm sure everyone in football would respect. But from a punter's point of view, we're looking at potentially an all-London semi and an all-Merseyside semi, obviously depending on what happens in the replays. Yeah,
I mean, without a doubt. I mean, you'd probably... I think as a footballing fan, I'd like to see Liverpool, Everton and Chelsea, Tottenham because you've got 4 top sides there. I mean, obviously, the people in the North East, Sunderland fans. I don't give Bolton much of a prayer. I did give them a prayer at the weekend. I thought they'd get a 1-1 draw and then maybe get beat away from home because of the counter-attacking pace of Spurs. Yeah. But I've gone for Liverpool since before the 3rd round draw, so I've got no reason to leave them out because they've proved they can beat them all. On their night, they beat them all.
What did you make of Liverpool's performance in beating Stoke yesterday?
I thought they were just frustrated, to be fair, and they had to be patient. I think a few of their players, again, didn't... I mean, I know Downing scored, but I don't think he contributed to the game at all.
Law of averages says he has to score sometimes. If you had a quid... Every game he's played first goal scorer, you'd be in the poorhouse.
Oh yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, you'd be sectioned for putting a quid on in the first place because there's just no need for it. Carroll again, he's not quite doing it again, and I blame Downing and an out right winger because they get down to the byline, they cut back, and then they want to put another ball in. Whereas Carroll's always going to be best for wingers that get to the byline and whip it in with their favoured right foot from the right, left foot from the left.
As a former player, you might be able to help me out with this, because when I watched Liverpool, and yes, Jose Enrique's had a great season, they've been a very good buy. Yeah. Why doesn't Craig Bellamy start every game? He's been their best player to me. If you take sort of Suarez out to a degree, he's not has a bad game this season.
No, I must agree with you. I think he's been outstanding, and I think he's just used him sparingly. He just doesn't want to upset. Remember, he's got to go back. So if you're trying to build a team here and get a bit of continuity, then you've got to play the side most weeks. But if you notice in the cup games when he has played, they've been frighteningly good. I mean, they've been in one at Chelsea, they've been in one at Arsenal, Man City. So on a one-off 90 minutes, then they're rightly favourites for me.
All right, let's have a little look at some of the FA Cup odds then, because these are fascinating. As I say, we still don't know what the situation is with Bolton. As it stands, 9-4 Liverpool, just a fraction bigger price, Chelsea 5-2. Spurs at 3s. Interesting that says the layers fancy Chelsea to win that All-London semi-final, assuming that Spurs get there. Sunderland at 8s and Everton at 9s, presumably because Sunderland have home advantage in that replay. Is 8-1 any value? I mean, Sunderland under Martin O'Neill, on their day, they've beaten some big teams as well this season.
Yeah, they have. And the big thing with Sunderland, and especially the Sunderland-Everton tie, there's no difference with Sunderland playing away at Everton or Everton playing away at Sunderland. You know it's going to be a tight game. Yeah. Toss a coin, you don't know where it's going to fall. I really fancied Everton at the weekend, especially after resting 6 players for the Merseyside derby last week. But and I think they were robbed, by the way. I think the referee denied them 2 penalties. I think the keeper, Mignolet, was outstanding. So I don't see any difference between Everton being outsiders going to Sunderland like Sunderland weren't at Goodison.
Well, I mean, obviously Sunderland will be favourites to beat Everton in that replay, so maybe Everton is the bet.
Oh, Everton would be, Everton would definitely be value. And the big thing I would say about that, because you know that Chelsea and Tottenham are going to reach the semi, or you expect them to reach the semi, it's quite feasible to think that come the final, Liverpool play Chelsea or Liverpool play Tottenham, Liverpool might not be favourites for that game. But they're only the favourites now because Chelsea or Tottenham is the flip of a coin.
Yeah, and fascinating FA Cup situation, and obviously Bolton was, as we say, still waiting to tell us all whether they're going to carry on in the competition or not. Let's move across into Europe then. Champions League draw was made on Friday. Interesting draw as well. Not a very good draw for me. I backed Benfica at 100-1 start of the season, and they're going to do it the hard way. Chelsea and Barca.
They'll beat Chelsea over 2
Well,
legs.
I fancy him to do that. I do fancy him to do that. I think maybe Chelsea's win over Napoli has created maybe a bit of, I'll say, false hope. That would be cruel, but the way Chelsea fans are speaking, they reckon the Benfica game's a gimme, and that it ain't.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, I make Benfica the favourites over the 2 legs anyway. Now, the big thing for Chelsea the other night is, yes, they did knock them out. Yes, they did get through. But Napoli still had their chances, and Napoli were the better side for long periods. And even when Chelsea were like in the pole position, Napoli still came at them and found holes. And you know that if there's a couple of personnel that are out for Chelsea, then they are an average side.
It just shows, though, Gordon, doesn't it? When the draw's been made, you can be a fairly astute punter. And I think 100-1 Benfica was a decent bet at the start of the season. But you do need a bit of luck. And if the draw had worked out differently and they'd got Apoel and then played maybe Marseille in the semi, whatever, you know where I'm going with this. All punters do this. But it just shows it's not all about skill, as it were. There is a bit of luck involved in all punting, isn't there?
There is, and I know quite a few people that think that Milan could turn over Barcelona. They really do, and I think the prototype will be when Inter Milan went and knocked out Barcelona 2 years ago under Jose Mourinho, and it's basically just to quiet them down and make sure they don't get an away goal. And I think that Milan playing first, I think that if you lose Barcelona, then I think that Bayern Munich will lift the trophy.
Yeah, and Allegri is rated very highly as a coach in Italy at the moment. Let's have a look at the outright odds then for the Champions League. And no real surprise that Barcelona are favourites. We'd expect that. No real surprise that Real Madrid are second favourites, because, of course, they can't meet now until the final in Munich. If you look outside those two, there's big prices all over.
There is, and Bayern Munich are 6-1, and there was only probably 7-1 at the start. So Bayern Munich haven't changed, and everyone should know that the final is actually being played in the Allianz Arena this year. So that's another reason why they're going to want to get there. And if they do get there, it's going to be a massive home game for them. Bayern Munich, I would take to beat Real Madrid 7 or 8 times out of 10. Yeah. And the reason I say that is because Real Madrid are not good defensively. Bayern Munich are awesome going forward. And with Real Madrid, they sometimes don't turn up in the big games. Hence the reason. I know there are 8 points clear in La Liga.
And I should point out, playing devil's advocate, that Bayern are not top of the Bundesliga, are they?
No, they're not, because, again, what they did is they did get a few injuries mid-season. They were frightening for the first 10 or 11 games, and then they took their foot off the gas, and now they're coming back again. Now they're just running into that bit of form. But with Real Madrid, Barcelona have the Indian sign over Madrid. Although Madrid are 8 points clear, it's because Barcelona have dropped points against the also-rans. Yeah. Otherwise, I mean, if you had Barcelona, Real Madrid, then I would be saying Barcelona, fill your boots.
So at the moment, you're sticking to your Bayern, and for those who haven't had a bet yet and fancy it, Bayern is the value.
Oh, it's massive. I can't see them not being in the final. I mean, they'll dispose of Marseille, because Marseille
are poor side.
They don't score goals.
No.
And I would say that if you're going to beat Bayern Munich, you're going to need to score maybe 3 or 4 over the course of 2 legs, and that's not going to happen.
Interesting. All right, from the Champions League to the Europa League. Let's have a look at the Europa League draw. Again, it's drawn through to the semis as the Champions League is. No British interest, of course, disappointingly. AZ against Valencia, Atletico Madrid, Hanover, Schalke, Bilbao, who beat United, outplayed them over 2 legs, and Sporting Lisbon, who I had a sneaky interest on. They've got the best draw, probably, Metalist Kharkiv. Sporting Lisbon putting out Manchester City, despite a scare when they nearly blew it in the last couple of minutes.
Joe Hart's header, that'd have been unbelievable. Yeah. But the thing is, with Sporting, they hang around in games. They have their spells when they're really good, and then they give the opposition an opportunity to get back in it. Whereas you have a look at the likes of Schalke and Atletico Bilbao. I'm really gutted that these two sides got drawn against each other, because I fancied that these were going to be the finalists. Because Bilbao, they're like Liverpool. On one given night, they can beat absolutely anybody.
As they showed against United.
Yeah, in both games. And again, in the last game, then when they beat Manchester United 2-1, it was a case of they were that good that Man United were good on the night. If you'd have took Bilbao out there and said, right, now analyse Man United's performance, it was good. They shifted it quick, they played at a tempo, they stuck to runners, they had some sort of pattern of play. But Bilbao made them look ordinary. But again, what they do is, and this is another reason for being interested in Bilbao, is that they actually, I think they made 8 or 9 changes from the side who played Osasuna on the Sunday. So they know we're sticking all our eggs in the UEFA Cup basket.
Yeah, which is completely the reverse of what some teams do. I'm thinking particularly of Tottenham, who didn't want to qualify in the first place, and obviously Stoke City, that I think was disgraceful. We might just speak about that for 30 seconds. What Stoke did, sending that second team to Valencia. I don't understand why teams big up the fact they want to get into the Europa League. And it's frustrating from a punter's point of view, because they then effectively give it away, like Villa did a couple of seasons ago as well.
Yeah, it's one of them. Be careful what you wish for. I mean, they all want to get there, and then they moan that they've got to play 50-odd games because the tournament actually starts back end of June, early July. And what do you want? Do you want to get in there? And I mean, Fulham got in there through the Fair Play Award and ended up playing 60 games in one season. And it was the making of some of their players.
Well, at least with Fulham, you know they care. Let's have a look at the latest Europa League outright odds. And the market here is rather more open than the Champions League market. It's 3-1 Atletico, Valencia 7-2, same price Bilbao, Schalke 11-2. 10-1 the rest. I still think Sporting at 10 isn't the worst bet. No,
again, and I would go with Bilbao and Schalke and try and couple them up, because Bilbao are absolutely flying at the moment, obviously getting their goals with Levante. And you've got Schalke scoring goals like nobody's business. I mean, the balls are coming from the right, they're coming from the left, and I think it's Hesselink who's scoring all the goals as well. So I will definitely be interested in Schalke at 11-2. Again, German side.
Yeah, they've always had that reputation of being attacking, attractive, which is actually quite nice when you're a punter, if you back them, because you know they're going to be pouring forward. Don't sit back on leads.
No, and that's probably the bad thing, is because Bilbao are so disciplined and they work so hard that they will catch you out at the back. And I would probably have to agree with the market and say Bilbao are probably my favourites over the 2 legs. But I think it'll be quite high scoring.
All right, thanks for the moment, Flash. Coming up in part 3, golf, cricket, snooker and Formula 1 will be back in the time it takes Sebastian Vettel to get from 0 to 60. Welcome back. You're watching Sports Tonight Live and The Punter with myself, Trevor Harris, and Flash. What's Flash? Now, let's talk about a bit of golf, because I'm sure, like you, lots of people out there were watching the golf last night, live from the States, watching Luke Donald get his #1 ranking back, and thoughts of the Masters just a few weeks away. Luke Donald is not the favourite for the Masters. He's never won a major, we know that much. Yeah. But it's about as fascinating, I reckon, a sort of pre-Masters build-up as there's ever been. Tiger's back in the mix. Donald, we know, is there. McIlroy, who is just replaced as world #1. There's a few others you can throw in too.
Oh, there's plenty,
where are we going here with the Masters?
Well, first of all, I like to look at players, again, course and distance, who have done well. And when I say course and distance, I mean someone who's finished in the top 20, someone who's definitely made Saturday and Sunday at Augusta, because it goes up a couple of gears. I also like to, if I'm looking for value, I'm looking in the scrambling stats, because it's hard to hit tee to green all the time. Fairways and greens, you're looking at someone maybe who's in the top 8 players for scrambling so far. Now, that brings in like your your Adam Scotts, your Sergio Garcias, Padraig Harringtons, and then you've got to think you've got to have a bit of length off the tee. And that's where, although the scrambling would say Luke Donald, I would worry about him going into some of these greens if it's hard and there's no rain with 3 and 4 irons. I really would worry because it's a big advantage going in with smaller clubs. Now, I know that Martin Keimer, who's world number 4, has flown right under the radar, never made the cut at Augusta, so you'd normally put a big cross against him. He worked from October to January on learning how to draw the ball off the tee, which again is a major advantage. Now, he'd probably be around 66 to 1. So he's someone that you may have a tiny interest in for the first 2 days.
All right, let's have a little look at, start that again, a little look at the odds. One player who, you mentioned Harrington, is he worth a little dabble? Because he shot 61, shot the lights out the other day, didn't he?
Yeah, and again, he would be if you was having the, it's just an interest out, or I'm going to take him at a big price and then trade out of him, because he followed that 61, and I think he did 10 under on the first day, and he's collated score after 4 rounds was 8 under.
Yeah.
So he's gone sort of 2 over for the next three rounds.
Which is no good. I mean, looking at those odds, Flash, I mean, 5 to 1 Rory, is that value? We know he's a great player, but is that value?
No, it's not value at all, because although he's world number 2 and could well be world number 1 by then, because Luke Donald's not going to Bay Hill this week. I love Tiger Woods. I love Tiger Woods at 11 to 2, and a lot of people said, oh, he's not this, he's not that. I tell you, he's more balanced in his swing, he's more mature mentally, because an old Tiger Woods would have gone through the injury and then broke down afterwards because of the ego.
And he ticks the box as far as course form is concerned, obviously.
Yeah, it's his home. I mean, he's obviously chasing Jack Nicklaus, and what a better place to do it. And the big thing about Tiger is he's finished, I think, 9 out of the last 11 events in the top 10. And just because he hasn't won, you don't really notice him, oh, he's not done too well because he comes 4th or 5th. You're looking at 11 to 2, I think that's an each way bet to nothing.
What really interests me, and obviously our odds tonight are supplied by Unibet, but it would apply to all bookmakers. When they price up at, say, the Masters, do they calculate the fact that so many punters want to be with Woods, and that affects the price? Because his true price, in terms of his true chances of winning the tournament, is probably greater than
I would say it'd be about a 10 to 1 shot. I know plenty of people that want to take him on, but I certainly wouldn't be one of them. And the other big thing with Tiger is that he's going to return there with a new caddy. Davis Love's old caddy. Davis Love goes well here. So I always look for a bit of maturity. You need to have a mature player going to Augusta, because there's so many different facets over the course of the week. Now, you have to talk about Tiger Woods' caddy Steve Williams, which then brings in Adam Scott. Adam Scott's going real good at the moment. And again, you've got Adam Scott up there at 29 to 1. I wouldn't put anyone off him being in and around the top 10. And a lot of the companies, they are doing first 6 as well.
Yeah, that's good. Remember that if you want to play each way. More chat about the Masters to come over the next couple of weeks. Of course, it doesn't start till next month. Starting somewhat sooner than that is England's 2-test series against Sri Lanka. England, of course, who are the world number 1 nation in Test cricket, but who suffered that disappointing defeat, series defeat against Pakistan. And this is not going to be easy on Sri Lankan soil.
No, it's not, and I make Sri Lanka my favourite. So again, looking at them at 2 to 1, the only way that we'd get out of the whole series with a draw is if we have the monsoon season and it really opens up. because the days of getting a draw over 5 days, they're long gone. These are severe batting tracks, and Sri Lanka have unbelievable talent. I mean, you've got Tilakaratne Dilshan, you've got Faranga, the Silva, the whole batting.
Sangakkara, I think, is a fabulous player as well.
The list is endless. They've got like 9 people who can put up 100 or 150 on their own at pace. They all bat now at 1-day level. They all go out in a test match and they treat it to get 350. In the old days, or even 10 years ago, 250 in a day, really good score. Now, if you're anything under 330, you've dawdled. So for me, I think Sri Lanka are massive favourites. Okay,
interesting, because they're a price at 2s. It's just a 2-set test series, remember. Let's have a look at the correct score betting. Not as many possible scorelines as you'd usually have in a test series, just the 2 tests, as I say. Sri Lanka, you reckon Sri Lanka will win it, Flash? I mean, would you be taking the 7 to 2 about 1-0 or 8 to 1 about 2-0?
8 to 1. 8 to 1 is just an unbelievable. But because the big thing is, if you back Sri Lanka to win 2-0 or 8 to 1, and they win the first test, then you can have a money on the draw or on England.
Yes.
Because you've got everything covered and you'll win money.
Do you think enough punters actually lay off when they should? Or do they just, A, because of either ignorance or because they just can't be bothered. Or
No,
don't do it.
emotional. They get emotional with it, and what they do is, if things start going their way, they start believing that the money's already in their pocket, and then that's when you get bit. For me, I would say Sri Lanka at 8-1 is by far the biggest price there. Sri Lanka, I think, will win the first test, and then you'll be looking afterwards. You might have to maybe lay, I don't know, 3-1 England in the second test, and maybe 5-2 to draw. But again, you just let it ride.
Be tough.
At 8-1, you can let it ride because it's the biggest price.
Definitely a big price if you want to follow Flash in there. 8-1 for England to lose that series 2-0. Rain might stop play, of course, in Sri Lanka. It certainly won't stop play at the Crucible when the World Snooker Championship starts again next month. April's always a great month for sport and a great month for punting. And a bit like the Masters, Flash, I think the World Championship now is wide open. Yep. There was a story in the paper the other day that said the betting revenues on snooker are higher than they have ever been, partly due to increased TV coverage, also partly due to the fact that there are so many exciting players now. In the same way you talked about cricketers not scoring at 2 and over anymore and scoring at 3 and over, they're putting them off the lampshades now. It's not just Judd Trump, it's not just Ronnie, they all do it.
Exactly, and the big thing is, I don't know if it's going to come in for the Crucible, but I believe that all matches will be within one session. Or two sessions.
Sessions.
So whereas before it was split over 3 or 4 in a couple of days and this and the other. I'm really cheering on Judd Trump, and I'm not just saying that because he's 5-1 favourite. I believe that he's brought a freshness and honesty back to the game. And I saw an interview, and he wants to be world #1. He wants the world championship. He has a real hunger there. You could have the usual suspects in and around him, but mine will be Judd Trump and maybe Mark Selby.
Yeah, Selby is one of the most consistent players. If you want a player that you know is very unlikely to get knocked out by a player ranked lower than him, it's Selby.
Yes. Yeah, and the deeper he goes into the tournament, the better he gets. And I see there he's not even on there, so they're going 16-1 bar him, so he must be around the 20-1 shot. And I'll be thinking the reason for that is that the draw, he's obviously going to be in that quarter with the likes of maybe Trump and Robertson or someone like that.
Yeah, but just briefly, Ronnie O'Sullivan in general, are you with him or against him?
Yeah, I think he's like a guilty pleasure. He's a bit like a Balotelli of the snooker world. Yeah, I've got to be with him. He's a Londoner, and he's done great. He's gone back, and I always like to see someone bounce back. And you never know. And the things in sport, they really do go funny sometimes. We're having O'Sullivan coming back. We're having Woods coming back. What about the two, a pair and a double? All
right, interesting. Let's talk F1 then. Of course, we had the first race of the season at the weekend. Victory for Jenson Button, as you predicted, and he was a big price.
Yeah, he was 11-2 on Friday. I really reversed into that one because there was rain on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and I think he's the best driver in rain. I think stats will bear me out there. And then there was no rain. And then Lewis Hamilton obviously took pole. And I saw an interview with Jenson just before the race at about 5:45 on Sunday morning, and he was in the pit lane, and they said to him, "What do you reckon?" He went, "I'm going to have a go going up the inside on Lewis."
Well, to be fair, I mean, I'll tell you what this reminded me of. Lewis Hamilton's start, if you didn't see it, it was woeful. It's the old school run on a Monday morning. You're behind Mrs. whoever it is with the kids. You get to the roundabout or the traffic lights. The cars move off. You think, off you go, off you go. No, nothing. Don't mean to be sexist, but whatever. It's horrendous. And that's what happened to Hamilton. He lost his chance there and then.
Well,
on the grid.
He did. And we spoke to a journalist who was in Australia on Friday morning when we did the punter on Friday night. And basically he said that I think 11 out of the last 12 winners of the Melbourne Grand Prix have been on the front row. So that was good for us.
And here's one for you. 7 of the last 10 winners of the Melbourne Grand Prix have won the title.
Well, I mean, yeah, I'm happy at the moment because I've tipped Jenson Button again. So as long as he keeps going, I'll be happy.
Let's have a look where he stands at the current odds for the Formula One Championship. Obviously, only one race gone. The next race in Malaysia at the weekend, and then we're off to Bahrain, I think, where we couldn't hold a Grand Prix last year. There are the odds from Unibet. 6-4 Vettel, Button 7-4, so they almost can't split them. Lewis Hamilton at 2s, and then it's a big gap out to Alonso and Webber. So you're still. So Button, obviously, anyone who's backed Button before the weekend's got massive value.
Oh yeah, again, I think he was 9-2 for the championship, 11-2 for the actual race. The big one here, I would say, is Fernando Alonso, because nobody gave Ferrari a prayer. I think they were 12th and 16th on the grid, and I think he got up to 4th place. And they found speed that they didn't know they had. So I fancy that Ferrari are going to get better over the course of the year. And with looking at the first 3 there, you've got to expect it's going to be the usual people. But I think if Hamilton gets too far behind Button, he might push too hard, and that might let the Ferrari in.
Do you think Button has underperformed in his career? It's only his 13th win in well over 200 races, or is it just down to the car that he's had?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. I think that he's a bit methodical. I think he's a bit careful. He looks after the car. He likes to drive the car, and he responds from a good car. It's not. He doesn't need the best car, because we saw in Canada last year, he was last on the grid, went all the way through, put Vettel under pressure. Vettel just had a little shake up, lost the back end, and he came through and won the race. So Button's got everything, and if he's got a good car as well, then he could take all the beating.
And Sebastian Vettel knows almost certainly now it's going to be a lot more difficult this season for him than it was last.
Well, yeah, because I think that the whole basis of Vettel winning the title last year was his pole performances. He has like 11 or 12 poles. I mean, well, then you're starting at the front. If you start at the front more often than anyone else, you're entitled to be winning more races than anyone else.
Yeah, and were you happy with the entertainment factor of the first race of the season?
Well, if I'm honest, I woke up at about 5:30. I watched the first 7 laps,
right,
and then I went back to sleep because, well, we was already told that normally if you hit the front in Melbourne, it's game over.
It's like the boat race, absolutely. The Formula One season continues at the weekend. We're going to continue after this break, looking at all the week's midweek football. Welcome back. You are watching The Punter, and on our final part of today's show, we're going to go back and talk about the greatest game in the world, football. The live game tomorrow night is in the Championship, actually. West Ham United, Middlesbrough. West Ham are under a bit of pressure. They need to win this game.
They do. I think they need to change their style, to be honest. I think they're too Bolton-esque, which is a really easy thing for me to label at them, obviously with Big Sam being there. He's took a few of these old players. But Borough are really struggling. They are really struggling. I mean, they got demoralised against Leeds at home last week, 2-0.
Yeah.
Then they went to Birmingham and got done 3.
Because they kind of flattered to deceive earlier in the season, didn't they?
Yeah, they had Marvin Emines scoring goals, and they had McDonald scoring goals, and then they've lost their way. They've got a lot of young boys, a young boy in the centre of the park, young boy at left back, young centre half, but they're not now. It's getting down to the nitty-gritty. You need a real strong balance of experienced boys who can then give it to the energetic ones and just keep them in. Now, for me, I don't like saying West Ham will win tomorrow.
Well, let's have a look at the league table first of all, just to put this into a bit of context. We showed you it earlier, but it's worth looking at again.
Yeah.
West Ham currently sitting there in third. I think that points tally is actually not right.
I wish it was 53, but it is actually 63.
63, yeah. So they're 3 points off Reading, and Middlesbrough just clinging on to the last playoff spot there.
Yeah, they are, and they're going to be under pressure, to be fair, because I think they've got quite a few of the big boys to play. Obviously, they're going to have Southampton at home, but I expect West Ham to win tomorrow. That will take them to... this is obviously prior to Saturday, because Southampton and that are on 69. But anyway, I'll go West Ham to beat Middlesbrough, definitely. Borough haven't scored for a few games. Better form away from home because they can hit teams on the counter. West Ham have got to give someone a drubbing soon, and I fancy it could be tomorrow. Yeah,
they've not been the punters' pal, have they? Particularly when you back them at home at shortish odds. They're held by Watford and all sorts of teams. Let's have a look at the odds for this game then against Middlesbrough. Not surprisingly. Well, I say not surprisingly, I thought they might even be a bit shorter than that. 4 to 5 you can play.
Yeah, you can play, and that is because so many teams have gone there and frustrated them. There was Cardiff and Leeds earlier on in the year. They both got winners in the last 2 or 3 minutes because teams sit back knowing that it's always the same in the Championship. When you have a top side, teams come in, they play a 4-5-1, and they sit in and they do not give you anything, and then they try and hit you on the break. Now, with West Ham, they're perfect for that because they overcommit. Because they want to go harem scare them in the box, get your flick downs. But if you don't get the second balls, the ball could be in your net in 5 seconds. So that's what teams do. Now, I worry that Borough haven't really got the pace to spring West Ham. So I'd say that West Ham, big boys against the youthful Middlesbrough defence, they will come out on top.
All right. Well, so we're with West Ham then for Flash tomorrow. The live Premier League game is a big one as well at Ewood Park. Blackburn Rovers versus Sunderland. Blackburn, we talked about them earlier, they're not in the bottom 3, but they're too close for comfort. They need to win this game as well. And Sunderland have lost the odd game away from home under Martin O'Neill, even though they've done pretty well since he arrived. They may have other priorities, I suspect. Yeah,
again, I think the necessity is that Blackburn need it more than Sunderland. Yeah. And I think that just under 6-4 Blackburn, they score goals every week. The big thing is that they do not keep clean sheets. I do not know. I think Winston Churchill was playing up front the last time they kept a clean sheet, but Sunderland, they don't score many goals. They flattered to deceive against Everton at the weekend. I think they drew 1-1. They had one shot on goal. I mean, at one save Tim Howard had to make, and that will not get the job done away at Blackburn. So 7-5, I think that's very good value, and I'd want to be with Blackburn.
Yeah, and it's been a terrific achievement really so far from Steve Keane to keep them above that drop zone. I mean, been mired in it, all the stick he's taken.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people have got a bit of newfound respect for him, actually.
Well, I think that's his biggest achievement, is actually keeping hold of his job.
Yeah.
I mean, if he had footballing people above him, i.e. on his board, he would have gone. But because he had non-footballing
Chicken
people,
farmers.
Chicken farmers, yeah, exactly, the Venkies, that basically they didn't know, so they've took guidance from somebody else and left him in there. And I think that will pay dividends to just let him see it out now.
All right, let's have a little look at the table. It's worth reminding you of exactly how things stand. Down at the bottom, you can see Blackburn there, just 3 points above the drop zone currently, but a couple more wins is going to get them. A little gap's just starting to open, isn't it? QPR, Wigan and Wolves, those three clubs in real trouble, and Bolton, as you mentioned earlier, as well.
Yeah, I mean, Blackburn, if they get the win, even if they got a draw, 26, that means then that they're 2 games better off than Bolton, because Bolton are then going to be 3 points behind, but with a goal difference of -6. So, and I know, I put anything on that Bolton are not going to beat anyone by a 6-goal margin. So they are by themselves, and the big thing at this stage of the season is to make sure that you've got more points than games. So if you've got 5 games left and you're sort of 9 points there, then you're not going to get caught. All
right, let's have a quick whiz through some of the Premier League games on Wednesday, the biggest of which is at the Etihad, when Manchester City entertained Chelsea. We had a brief word about it earlier. Here are your odds. Manchester City, I think it's 17 or 18 successive league wins at home. There are a shade of odds on, but I think there'll be a lot of players at 17 to 20. I mean, you may not be one of them.
No, I won't be one of them because I'll be cheering Chelsea on for my life. So I'll have an emotional attachment here rather than a financial one. But again, if I was looking at this game, then I think the 5-2 draw is massive.
Yeah, I mean, Chelsea beat them, didn't they, at the Bridge earlier in the season. It was a slightly controversial game because City were a goal up, should have had a pen that might have settled it, ended up losing the game. But this is a real nervy one for Mancini. He can't afford to drop any more points with United 4 clear now.
Exactly, and Robbie Di Matteo's just letting them go out and play. Now, the big thing for me, if I was Chelsea manager, I'd want pace on both wings, I'd want pace up the front, and I'd want to suck them in and hit them back on the break, because the one thing that Man City do is they overcommit. They do get players forward, they do get players beyond, and if you leave De Jong, I guess you'll play De Jong and Barry as 2 holders, then you can get at them.
All right, let's have a look at another game on Wednesday, not too far away from the Etihad. On Merseyside, Everton versus Arsenal at Goodison Park. Now, the Gunners here, I think, might be a bet. They're 7-5. They haven't had a game for 9 days since they beat Newcastle so dramatically. And Everton, of course, we mentioned them in FA Cup action at the weekend. I know Everton are good at home, and you'll tell me they've beaten City and Chelsea and Tottenham. But I always think Arsenal are the kind of team you back when they're odds against and probably veer off them when they're odds on.
It's funny because if this game was being played on a Saturday afternoon at 3 o'clock, then I'd want to be with Everton.
Yeah.
Or the draw is my saver. Right. Under the lights at night, then I would want to be with Arsenal. I just think there's a different Arsenal when you see them in night games. And 7-5, I would have thought there'd be more even money.
Yes, and although Everton's home record is good, though.
Yeah, but they don't score enough goals to put you away. I mean, they beat Tottenham, they beat Chelsea, beat Man City 1-0. Well, 1 goal don't get it done against Arsenal.
That's a good point, isn't it? I mean, Arsenal, their problem has been defensively again this season, hasn't it?
Yeah, whatever. I mean, I think at some stage, you've had the Brazilian boy out, you've had Gibbs out, Koscielny's been out, Mertesecker's out now, Vermeulen's out. So they've never had a settled back 4. And now they're starting to get the boys back. Sagnon's back, Gibbs is back, Vermeulen, Koscielny. Szczesny's been the only ever present. And then the boys are starting to get more confident going forward, and he's playing Walcott and Oxlade-Chamberlain, and then he's still got boys in reserve to feed them the ball. So for me, Arsenal under the lights at 7-5.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
And the Golden Boot winner-elect, of course, Van Persie up top for the Gunners. Right, on to QPR Liverpool, Loftus Road. We mentioned this is the start of a horror run for QPR as they try somehow to get out of trouble under Mark Hughes. No surprise they're big odds against, and Liverpool a shade of odds on away from home.
Yeah, after Liverpool's exploits in the last few weeks, and they've been they're flattered. They basically got over the line. The 3-0 against Everton, Everton actually helped them on their way that night. Six players out, a few mistakes, players playing in the wrong positions or being asked to do the wrong role. So I don't think that there's a lot in this. I really don't. And at the prices, 100 to 30, Queen's Park Rangers haven't had a game for a while, so they'll be fresh. I'm just hoping that he finally gets it right and they actually buy into what he's trying to do. The big thing with Queen's Park Rangers, are they going to keep 11 men on the pitch? Because,
yes,
I mean,
they've had problems there,
they
haven't
really have.
Yeah.
And, I mean, Diakite came in, got sent off because he wants to dive in all the time. I mean, he could have been sent off 3 or 4 times, diving in the first 25 minutes. They had Cisse sent off, he's now back.
Barton, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, Barton's not done anything cool year apart from tweet. So, for me, I think Queen's Park Rangers 130, their value.
All right, one other game on Wednesday. It's at White Hart Lane, Spurs versus Stoke. This game definitely going ahead, by the way. I can't have Stoke here, Gordon. I can't remember the last time Stoke beat a top side away from home. I think they're awful on the road.
Yeah, I mean, they haven't been that brilliant at home neither. I mean, they've just got by. I mean, they've not given anyone a drubbing. Tottenham, again, you just don't know how the feelings are. I wouldn't want to be with Tottenham at 2 to 5. I wouldn't want to be with Stoke at 10s, never mind 13 to 2. So if you had to have a punt, then I think the best thing would be to lay Tottenham at 2 to 5 and have both the draw and Stoke going for you. Yeah,
that's interesting. And Spurs, of course, they need to arrest a poor league run because Arsenal are just a point behind them.
And Chelsea, they'll know that by the end of that night, they could be 2 points behind Arsenal and only 1 point clear of Chelsea.
Yeah, fascinating. As ever, thanks again, Flash, for all your help and advice tonight. I hope we've given you just a little insight into where you might get some of the value in the weeks to come. Seems to be all the Bs because Flash is with Bayern and he's with Button, but I can't persuade him to put a bean on Barnsley. Hope you've enjoyed the show. We'll see you again next time. Bye for now.
Stay ahead of the game with Sports Tonight Live. Don't miss a thing. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Search for Sports Tonight Live on Facebook and like our fan page. Follow Sports Tonight TV on Twitter and tweet us your thoughts and opinions. Sports Tonight Live, it's the platform for the fans.